Hey everybody, it's Boardman21, and today's build is going to be our first attempt at making Disintegrate work. Actually, I take that back, it's not our first attempt, it's about our 100th, but this is our first viable actual attempt that worked. But with Disintegrate, we basically are still doing 100% Lightning Blast damage. The nice thing is since we have Lightning Blast set up for basically single target damage, Disintegrate does an area of effect or will hit multiple enemies at once, since one, it pierces, and two, you can aim it all around. So if you channel all of your enemies kind of behind you and then aim in one direction, you can usually clear them out pretty quickly. On top of that, you'll have Enchant Weapon and Arcane Ascendance both casting Zap and casting Lightning Blast, which will help kind of clear up a whole bunch of mobs at once. And Disintegrate actually does decent damage itself, so that in itself will help clear through trash mobs pretty quickly. And also your tankiness will actually be quite high while you are actually disintegrating. So most people, hate staying in one spot and dying. In this case, you will have armor and protections while channeling, even though we won't be running a two-handed staff, which kind of sucks, but we needed really high crit for this to really work. You will, however, have the rings and rail giving you armor and protections while channeling. You take less damage a little bit from Lightning Aegis when that's active, and then you're going to be leeching a bunch of damage while channeling. In fact, you get 10%, or you can get up to 10% just from idols themselves, which is huge because the amount of damage that you're doing while channeling with Lightning Blast and other things is going to keep your life full almost at all times. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and get into the skills. For skills, we're going to be running Disintegrate, Arcane Ascendance, Enchant Weapon, Flame Ward, and Lightning Blast. With Disintegrate, we have it set up so that it will, 1, have a 100% chance to cast Lightning Blast every second. It's still going to do decent damage by getting to tier 3 because you'll be in it for quite a while, especially teaming it up with Arcane Ascendance to do good damage. And then also, you want it to give you mana back while channeling it because Lightning Blast is going to cost a lot. Now, as long as you're hitting enemies, you can stay in Disintegrate forever. With that, we have 4 points in Feedback, 4 points in Tendrils, 1 point in Electrify, and 1 point in Laser Focus. You no longer have a channel cost, and you get 20 mana back per second while you're actually hitting enemies. Now, this does take your damage down by 60%, which sucks, but with 4 more points in Hypofocal, you're actually getting 40 mana per second while casting it, which means that Lightning Blast, which is procced from both this skill and from Enchant Weapon and from Arcane Ascendance, and actually Enchant Weapon is Zap, but all of those together, all of their mana, you'll be able to sustain that, and therefore you'll allow Lightning Blast to be cast a lot, which is going to do really good damage. With our leftover points, we went for 1 point in Escalation, 1 point in Amplification, 2 points in Intensify, and 2 points in Glass Cannon, just to make up a little bit for all that damage we lost by taking Laser Focus. For Arcane Ascendance, we have this set up not to drain mana and to give us as much spell damage and to proc Lightning Blast. We have 1 point in Power Sprint, 1 point in Acuity, 1 point in Cunning, 3 points in Chronoclasm, 1 point in Superconductor, 3 points in Closed Circuit, 5 points in Higher Plane, and 5 points in Power Overload. So while Arcane Ascendance is active, 1, you can't move, 2, it won't drain mana, but you can only cast so many spells. So if you're staying in one spot for a long time, you have to be careful of how many times Flame Ward has gone off. And then you have Superconductor, which is going to cast Lightning Blast every 2 seconds, but with a 60% reduction, it's actually less than every second. So you'll have Disintegrate doing Lightning Blast every second, and you're going to have Arcane Ascendance doing it every second, which means you're getting 2 casts per second at least with Lightning Blast. And then you have a bunch of increased spell damage and more spell damage per second that you're in it. With those 2, Lightning Blast will start doing a lot more damage. We're also running a one-hand with a Callus, so you'll have really close to 100% crit. For Enchant Weapon, we have 4 points in Concentration for that active duration, 4 points in Efficiency to make it free, 2 points in Celerity, 5 points in Fulminate, 1 point in Conduit, and 4 points in Thunder. Yes, a lot of this melee stuff is very useless, but there's really nowhere else to put the points since this is technically meant for the Spellblade, but the zap is really nice. So this 1-point zap, so that you're zapping enemies every 2 seconds, and then that frequency increased by 200% means about every 0.6 seconds you will be hitting an enemy with lightning, which is nice because since you're going to be channeling, you're getting all of that extra damage leached as life, and it'll just keep your life super full. Plus, since you're completely spec'd into lightning damage for this build, it makes sense to just get some extra lightning for free, especially from a skill that's just going to boost your elemental damage. Then for Flame Ward, we have this set up defensively and offensively. We have 3 points in Dilation for the increased duration, 5 points in Infusion for 250% increased fire damage, with 1 point in Lightning Ward to convert that to lightning. Also, the Fire Aura procs will be a Lightning Aura, and that's the aura that you'll see around us. Thanks to our idols, we have between a 30 and 40% chance to actually proc that every time we do a critical strike, and that's why critical strike is very important. Because since we have close to 100% critical strike, we get lots and lots of those lightning auras, which means any enemies that get really close to us are going to die basically instantly, thanks to all of those layers of that. It does stack. And 3 points in Stalwart Defense for that 120 ward granted when used, 2 points in Barrier, 2 points in Shrewd Shielding, and 4 points in Metal Aegis, so that 60% of the damage that we take is converted to mana whenever this is active. And then for Lightning Blast itself, we are using Convergence. We have 3 points in Storm Razor, 2 points in Lightning Attunement. We will also have this Lightning Aegis, which we almost have 100% uptime on when you have Arcane Ascendance active and you are channeling Disintegrate, because Lightning Blast is going off so often that you will almost always have Lightning Aegis up. 4 points in Chain Lightning, 1 point in Convergence, 4 points in Overcharge, 1 point in Hypercharge, 4 points in Arcing Power, and 1 point in the Surging Influence. This 1 point might be useless, but it sounded good. Alright, for passives, we have 20 points in the base class, with 7 points in Scholar, 8 points in Elementalist, and 5 points in Rune of Winter. I meant to change these. These 5 points will actually go into Arcane Current. This is where you want those 5 points. You don't need the Lightning Blast to Cold anymore. I actually do need to change that so Lightning Blast will do more damage. And then for Sorcerer, we have 8 points in Calculated Destruction, 10 points in Wisdom, 8 points in Seronomancer, 5 points in Rift Bolt, 8 points in Crackling Precision, 5 points in Arcane Obliteration, 4 points in Distant Spark, 8 points in Arcane Current, 5 points in Archmage, 8 points in Arcane Avalanche. The only reason that this is really nice is that every once in a while, if you're taking damage, it'll just freeze everything around you. You don't need these 8 points, but they worked out well for us. It's a nice defensive mechanism. 10 points in Arcane Insight. And then for Spellblade, we have 10 points to unlock Enchant Weapon. We have 2 points in Arcane Warden and 8 points in Elemental Affinity. For items, the idols that you're looking for is going to be these idols that give you spell damage leached while channeling, and a % chance to cast Fire Aura on a critical strike. For items, you're going to want set elemental protection, set dodge, and armor and protections while channeling. Get that on both rings and your relic. If you do run a two-handed staff, you can. You'll have less crit. Since the catalyst skips base crit, we get 5 extra spell critical strike base chance, which is huge. And then for our chest piece, we're running int, dex, and adaptive spell damage while channeling with some dodge. For our helm, we have mana spent, gain as ward, lightning critical strike multiplier. We are wearing the bone amulet for the vitality, since this is an armor and protections build. And for your weapon, just the spell damage, lightning damage, just lightning damage and spell damage. It's really all you need. If you run the two-handed staff, make sure that you can get damage while channeling, and you can get armor protections while channeling. 2 most important things to get if you have a good two-handed staff. I would also put increased spell critical strike chance. Alright, with that, I'm going to go ahead and give you gameplay. The gameplay from this point out, maybe not at the beginning of the video, is going to have the passives reworked, so these 5 points will have Lightning Blast converted back into Lightning, taking those out, so it will be showing more damage, and it won't be cold. This is an accident. Do not put the 5 points in Rune of Winter. Put them in Arcane Current. Alright, here's some gameplay.